that eternal board gaming question. Will I play this title in my collection? Is this something that I'm regularly going to play with the group or with my friends? Or is it going to sit there on my shelf and kind of taunt me and say, Fritz, why aren't you playing me? That's one of the things that we've been exploring in the past couple of board game vlogs that I've been pushing up to my channel here, where I feel like you need to kind of match two things based on what title you're going to bring to play, either to your friend's house or the gaming club, or just what game are we going to play. First, of course, is narrative, knowing your audience. What type of game do you like to play? Sci-fi based games, fantasy based games. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you know that I love dungeon crawlers. And just when I'm like, I'm done, I don't need any more dungeon crawlers, I really don't, a new title comes along and I'm like, let's add it to the collection. So if I bring one of those dungeon crawlers to the board gaming club, then I know, like, hey, first of all, there's at least 10 players there that I regularly play D&D with. So they're going to play the dungeon crawler. There's a few people that are into kind of sci-fi fantasy. I might be able to pull in them. There's a couple of Euro players. They might pass. I mean, everyone's welcome to sit at my table and play. But I know that circle that I run with, we're into the kind of the same things. If I was going to a brand new gaming club, I might still bring a dungeon crawler, but I might bring 2 or 3 other titles to see. So we need to kind of know that audience. Within that framework, story-based games. There's some very, very interesting story-based games, kind of choose your own adventure, old school game book type board games. How do they play out? How did they play out? That's what I want to focus on. And I want to focus on 2 that are in my collection. One is an old-time title. It's been around for a long time. I think it's still in print, Tales of the Arabian Nights. And second is new. It's a Fantasy Flight title. It's out of print, discontinued, but there's still enough new old stock in the wilds. And it's got some interesting mechanics. It really does, with how it operates. That is the Legacy of Dragonholt. So these 2 games are choose your own adventure in that you create a character, you quest through the realm, either literally going on quests or trying to earn fame points, and you read from a big book or a series of books what's happening, and you make skill checks and you resolve stuff. Essentially, it's like a giant game book, only that plays out on a board or a map. So the first thing with this, of course, is reading the text entry. I find for these type of games, you have to really kind of know your audience. And what I mean by that is, if I can just kind of pull for a second and kind of illustrate it with Dungeons and Dragons, because also if you've been following my channel, you know I love Dungeons and Dragons. It's been an important point in my board gaming life and my wargaming life. But within that framework, the D&D players at my table, everyone is always welcome to play D&D at my table, whether it's experienced or not. Roll some dice. I love big games. If we can get 8 to 10 D&D players, we're going to have a great night. But within that framework, I realize people enjoy D&D for different reasons, and we need to kind of pull that together. Some players like to make really powerful meta characters and kind of break the bank. Other player characters are kind of more narrative or story driven. Some players sit at the table and they're quiet. They like to just kind of listen to the game and interact from a quiet perspective. Other players are doing the voice thing and getting into the voice of their character. A lot of different ways to play D&D. Now, D&D can accommodate that, and a good dungeon master can adjust that real time. Back to the board games, if it's a choose your own adventure board game, there's a lot of reading going on. There's a lot of interaction. Some players might not want to read in front of a group or resolve that. So you need to understand how that's going to work. In Dragonholt, you can pass the book around, or you can have one player read the book, or kind of like a game master, dungeon master type thing. For Tales, you could have one person do it, but it's more like passing the book around. So the first thing I find is these games tend to be a little bit more interactive in that you're reading stuff and you're interacting with the players in that voice or story type mode. It's not a good or bad thing, but it requires some adjustment on the audience. Is this kind of something that everyone is okay doing? The second aspect is these games tend to be very open-ended. You can get hit with the fate stick very, very easy. So I can sit there in Tales and be trying to optimize my character and get some gear and do this and do that. And then something absolutely crazy happens. Like I don't want to give away any spoilers, but get shipwrecked. I'm like making my way to one area of the board for those fame points that I need. And I get shipwrecked and go down this whirlpool, and now I'm on the opposite side of the world and there's just nothing there for me. Wait, what? So if you're a Euro player that needs to absolutely control everything and you're like, I don't want dice, I just want cards that I can control and modify, these are usually not the type of games for you. They're not, right? Because crazy stuff can happen. Now you improvise, you adapt, you overcome, but you have to be kind of cool with your best plans could be smashed in a moment. Likewise, the pace of the game is a little bit less. So I want to illustrate two other games in terms of pace in my collection. I do have a copy of Settlers. Used to play it a lot. It's one of those games, still play it once in a while, but that's kind of a mid-paced game. What I mean by that is as you go through each turn, you're going to build your stuff, you're going to do what you have to do, and then you're going to trade. And the trade phase where it's look, I'll give you some iron for wool, I'll do this, I'll do that. It's back and forth. It's not always just this or that. There's interaction. It's a medium-paced game. Zombicide Black Plague, Zombicide Invader. These games are where you've got your miniatures and zombies are just flooding the table and moving. The game plays very, very fast. Just a constant flood of zombies, and even the decisions you make, they play very fast. It's not to say it's not tactical. They play fast. So we have kind of a game that mid-plays and a game that plays fast. Choose your own adventure game book type games by their nature tend to play slower. They're theater of the mind. Even something like Tales that has a board game, or Legacy that has a map of the village. You're reading a story, you're going at a medium pace, you're picturing that in your mind, or I hope you are, because it's part of the game to think about that narrative. And as you play that out, you're seeing what's happening, you're seeing what's going on. The game interacts, you're thinking about stories. You want to play it on kind of slower mode to be able to capture that. That takes more time to play. These are not games that I would play if I only had an hour. I'd probably play a small box type game. But likewise, some players want a game to play faster, but also player count. The more players you add, the longer the game is going to take. Now, these aren't criticisms of the style or how it works. It's just understanding that while there's all these different type of board games, these choose-your-own-adventure story-based games can get very intense, but you want this good environment. You want the proper match to that environment to be able to play it.